Okay, I have returned. Excuse the background. I bought some things. I'll just show you this one thing that I got from my friend's store. This is a crochet dress, but just like, look how gorgeous is that. So perfect for like at home, I think, with just your knickers underneath, or over bathers when you go to the beach. I also got a bustier, so just show you quickly. It's pink and blue. I know it doesn't pick up on camera, but it's iridescent, and I think that'll be fun for a night out with the gals. So I went to the cafes. One was beautifully aesthetic in the decor. The food, oh, I've scratched my boob. I think I can see a red mark on it. But the food was a bit mid. And then I went to the dessert store, Bibelot, and that was stunning. So that was delicious. I got some cakes and treats to eat at home. So very excited. But I did see an independent bookstore there. There's Sylvie in the background sticking her head in the boobs. Hey, I know, I do that too. And I thought, I'm going to buy a book from this independent bookstore and support a local business. Well, not local for me. I drove quite far to get to this area. Support small, independently owned bookstores. And I ended up buying this. So this is Claire Keegan's Small Things Like These. And the reason that I purchased this, so it's $23 for 100 pages. In Australia, most paperbacks start at around $35. And obviously go higher depending on how big the book is, and or if it's a hardcover and all that stuff. So books are pretty expensive, which is why I use my library. Also, because I'm a former librarian, why would I not? But I bought this because my book club has this slated on their list in the future, but the reservation list for like all forms of it are at least 100 people long. So I thought, it's going to be too dicey whether I get it or not in time. Sometimes they do have copies for book club that they have set aside, but book club has been increasing, so I didn't want to risk them not having enough copies for everyone to take one. So I thought, just buy it, Chanel, and then you can re-gift it as part of a bad Santa present at the end of the year. Like, so I'll read it once and re-gift it. But it's got end pages like that. And on the other one, I think it's the same. Yeah, it's the same. I don't even know what this is about, but I did love the other Claire Keegan little mini novella that I read previously. So we'll see if I also love this one. She's an author that I like. I also went to the library. So let me show you what I got. Cats are having a bit of a stare off in the background. So this is a rabbit hole. This was one of the TBR selections. I don't know if I'll like it though, because it is a thriller, and I read a bit more and it said I think it had a true crime podcast aspect, and I don't like true crime podcasts. And then I've got this one, which is called The Love Scribe. Once again, don't know what it's about, but I saw a lady on a book. I thought, okay, a book about books. And then this one, How to Be French, Eat, Drink, Dress, Travel, and Love la vie française. Français. I don't know how to speak French, guys. So I haven't read that many non-fiction books this year, and that's just because none of the new ones that have come to the library have piqued my interest. Catfight. I knew that was going to happen. So as soon as I saw this, I thought, okay, let's read it, because I do normally like to read 20% non-fiction books and just haven't been hitting that quota, and my brain is a bit starved of non-fiction information, so I thought I'd grab this. But that's everything for today. I did start reading the second installment in the Villains and I can't remember what it's called series, but the picture of the book will be up here. It's okay. I think the cheesiness of it is starting to sort of lose its like novelty. I'm not loving it as much obviously as I enjoyed the first one, because it was my first foray into the book. And I thought, oh yeah, it's so campy and extra, but now I'm like, oh, I'm getting a bit bored of this shtick. So I hope that the spice kicks in, because that's really like the main reason I decided to read the second one after getting the long, slow burn up tease of the first. I thought, all right, let's get at least a pash in. Nothing's happened yet. Like, he is very much ogling her at every opportunity, and I don't mind. I'm like, cover it away, sir. But nothing's happened between them yet, so we shall see. Hello, so I finished the book. I've given it 3.5 stars. This was the sequel. I don't think I even did an intro to this vlog before. I just launched straight into it, so apologies. But yes, it is the sequel, and was there more spice? There was a kiss. That's pretty much it. There was a little bit of binding one's wrist with a belt, because it seems that Damien might be into some bondage, but otherwise that was all there was. So wasn't quite as much spice spice as I was hoping for. It seems this is a real slow burn. And Emma's just too innocent, too naive. She's just hasn't got enough pluck for me. It's just her swooning and not making a move and then having to drink alcohol so she can get the courage. But then Damien's like, well, I'm not going to let you do anything while you're under the influence because that would be taking advantage. So stand-up guy, but very frustrating to read because these two have supposedly had sex with many people and yet they're just tiptoeing around each other. But in terms of the plot, it's still the same plot as the first book. So they're just going in this roundabout way of trying to get to their destination, and obstacles pop up, so they have to divert, and then an obstacle pops up there, so they have to go around it, and it's just getting a bit tedious because there's no sort of resolution in the books that they don't achieve their objective. It's just the first book came to an ending in a certain way in terms of an obstacle, and then it starts off with them being, all right, so what can we do next? So it's a bit unsatisfying in that way because their objective hasn't been achieved. They're still going on with it. Obviously in the third book, I'm assuming it all comes to a wrap up, but also the romance is just so incredibly slow paced. I'm assuming they do eventually bang in the last one. They're both adults, so I would assume so. But yes, like I said, because the first book was the first one, the silliness of it is quite novel, whereas now I'm like, it's a bit much. Am I going to read the third? I don't know, but I still, yes, Damien was an enjoyable character for me. Everything else was like, it's okay. You know, wasn't bad. It was entertaining though. So yeah, I gave the second installment 3.5 stars. Then I picked up Rabbit Hole by Kate Brodie. I DNF'd this very, very quickly. So this is meant to be a thriller in which a woman is investigating the disappearance of her sister 10 years prior after her father recently commits suicide. However, the first few pages alone, like the first few chapters, had multiple animal deaths, like violent animal deaths. And I'm just sitting there thinking, are you kidding me right now? Why are we having so many horrific, horrible animals being killed? I don't want to read about that. And then in the book too, they have a dog who is terminally ill with cancer and who's constantly yelping and in pain. So I'm like, well, there's obviously another animal death coming and I just don't want to. Like, it made me feel so yuck, and it turned me off so much to be confronted immediately with, kittens being crushed into amorphous blobs by car tires. It's too much. And then I read some reviews and there are more animal deaths, and no. For me, I haven't even been holding it up. That's a big no for me in non-fantasy books, animal deaths and cruelty. So I've decided to put it down. I wasn't really enraptured with the writing anyway, or the characters. I actually wasn't feeling very warm to either the mother or the daughter in this. And it turns out from other people's reviews that the main girl, Teddy, isn't actually a great character. Is quite unlikable and idiotic. So I am deciding to DNF this one. I don't know what I'll be picking up next at this point, but I will see you soon once I have. The next book I picked up is Where the Dark Stands Still, and I gave this 4.5 stars, so it's quite enjoyable. So I think this is based on Polish folklore. You've got an FMC who has magic, and in this town, magic is no longer considered something beneficial to have, and her magic, it seems to be out of her control, and there seem to have been deaths at her hands. So she sets off to find this magical flower that grants you a wish. You have to go through the cursed wood to get to it, and the wish that she wants to make is to remove her magic. However, there is a demon of the woods, a guardian of the woods, and naturally their paths meet. So she ends up making a deal with him to be his servant for a year, after which he will allow her one wish. However, things are not always as they seem, and the bargain itself is tricksy. There is an enemies to lovers, but they're never really enemies, to be honest with you. It's more like reluctant allies. You know, they're both trying to get something from each other. So they live in a house. The house itself is magical and sentient. There are so many mythical creatures in this, I guess, based on that come from Polish folklore. So if you like Slavic folklore, you will love this. And I do. I have a soft spot for it. The writing itself didn't really do much for me. This book is reminiscent of The Bear and the Nightingale, but a lot more light-hearted, easier to read, and romance-centric. So this is definitely more of a romance than the fantasy that is kind of the main focus of the book, the relationship between the Demon of the Wood and this girl. The Demon of the Wood is also bisexual and doesn't ever want to fall in love again because something happened in the past. So there are gods at play as well, bargains with gods. And there is quite a lot of gore. So it's a bit on the horror side because people are grotesquely killed and mutilated, and there's a lot of fighting and a lot of scary creatures. Reminded me a lot of The Witcher in terms of their beasties. But I enjoyed the story. It's the friendships that she forges are lovely. She treats everyone with kindness. She doesn't believe everybody who is a beast should automatically be condemned to death. It's like, let's do this on a case-by-case basis. Not all monsters are monsters and not all men are kind. But there's also a mystery to unravel along the way. I thought the cover was pretty cool too. But I enjoyed my time with it, and I made the mistake of starting it at bedtime. So normally I allow myself 1 hour of reading before I go to sleep. Should never begin a book because I cannot finish a 300-page book in an hour. And obviously that is what I wanted to do. I wanted to finish the book, so I stayed up to do it. And it's like, Chanel, don't start books at bedtime. You can continue books at bedtime because you know your willpower for putting a book down is not the greatest. And in this case, it certainly wasn't. But yes, an enjoyable book, and it was a debut from this author, so I would read more. But like I said, the writing I wasn't incredibly impressed by. This was more about the plot of the story and the characters for me that kept it going. The romance was nice too, but I needed a bit more build up. I needed more flirtation and more angst, more tension between the two. So you could really see it coming, where it was a bit, well, there might be something there, and then all of a sudden professions of love. And for me, that's not as juicy. You know, it's not as tantalizing as if there is a bit more, touches around the ribs and almost kissing. You know what I mean? You want them to be fighting their urges for each other all along the way, and they're just slowly inching closer and closer and closer. But still really enjoyable. The last book that I'm reading for this particular vlog is A Nameless Witch. So as you saw in my TBR video, this is a book I have already read. It was the first ebook that I read, and I gave it 4 stars. So I tried not to read my review because I didn't want to spoil myself. I don't remember a lot of it, but basically you have a witch. So this woman was the 6th child to a family who'd been cursed that their 6th child would be hideous and a monster, pretty much. But yet they went on and they had the 6th child, which is this nameless character. And she's hideous and cursed. However, in regards to being hideous, she's hideous for a witch. So witches should be grotesque. They should have crooked noses and warts and hunchbacks and messed up teeth. So for a witch, she's hideous because she's an absolute supermodel, pretty much. So she has to disguise herself as a witch. She has to put on a whole costume to pretty much make her as ugly as sin. But when she was a child, as a cursed child, she was born dead. So she's an undead. She is a hot zombie, so to speak. And her parents kept her locked in the basement until one day a witch came and rescued her because she could feel her magic, and she decided to train her in witchcraft, and they formed a really beautiful relationship. This witch also has a duck demon familiar called Newt, and yes, you heard that right. It is a duck with a demon in its body, and it is cute but deadly, and they sort of form a found family, which is so beautiful. But unfortunately, tragedy strikes and things happen, and our nameless witch, who is definitely morally grey because she's also a cannibal, she has a taste for human flesh, let's just say, and she has to go and seek vengeance for something that occurs. But I love the way this book is written. It is darkly humorous. So if you like dark humor, this is for you. I absolutely enjoy every bit of it that I read. It's got a fantastic pace, so it is definitely more fast-paced. There's a great mix of dialogue and banter and plot and place and character, and because it's funny, I'm just enjoying myself. It's darkly funny, okay? So it's, like I said, it's got some gruesome, grisly things going on. There's also a mystery to solve, and I am really enjoying myself. So perhaps I'll like it even more than I did when I previously read it so long ago. I'm not sure, I can't remember when I read this, but I think it's 10 years or more. But I'm hoping to finish it off today and give you my thoughts on it. But yes, so far so good. I had to make myself put it down in the evening so I could go to sleep, because I did actually learn my lesson after Where the Dark Stands Still. I was exhausted, so I didn't want that to happen again. But today I am off to lunch with my mum. I thought I'd take her out for brunch since we haven't hung out in a while. And then I'm just going to come home and read. Okay, so I have just finished A Nameless Witch, and I bloody love it. I bloody love it. I can't believe I only gave it 4 stars the first time, but this was back in 2012. 5 stars, and also added it to my precious list, which are books that just I adore and love and hold a special place for in my heart. It was amazing. I think I read my original review and I actually deleted it a little bit because I had put a minor spoiler in there. Naughty Chanel. I previously said that this character, this witch, a nameless witch, is unnamed. And I previously said that I would call her Willow or Selena. Not bad. This time around though, I'm feeling Rowan. I think that's what I would go with. But I loved it. The troupe of characters, so she has her demon duck familiar named Newt. There is also a troll named Worm and her broom named Penelope, along with her very virtuous white knight Whist. Now there is a star-crossed lovers element in this, and I hate star-crossed lovers. It kills me. It kills me so bad. But I understand it, and it's amazing, and it's even more powerful, but it's not a trope I love, I'll be honest with you. So I can't talk much about the romance. It's definitely tame. It's more fade to black, and you're not going to get more than description of kissing. And even that is very, very light, very, very light. But it's a tale about vengeance and quests and family and friends, and about being who you are, I guess, and having to accept what that means. I just don't want to talk too much about it because I don't want to give anything away about what happens in the story. It's just a wonderful ride. I don't think it's everyone's cup of tea, but it's mine. And it's such a charming little tale. I think originally in my review, I said it reminded me of The Princess Bride. And I can see how, like, kinda, but not kinda. It is a little bit confusing. It's witchy. So witches love talking in puzzles and riddles and doublespeak. So it is full of that. But I loved it. And it's definitely my favorite read of this year so far. But that's everything for this reading vlog. Until next time. Next time. I'm sorry. I'm tired. Until next time, stay wild, Star Child.